Yo, what's up, guys? It's just gonna be like another random, I guess, rant video. I guess I can just make. Oh, wait, it's not rant. I don't know. Just talking about random shit. Anyways, uh, I feel like it's probably been a while since I've done an update. I did another update, but I don't know what's going on with my computer. It just like said no. And then I did another update and I didn't like it because I think the audio was scuffed. And then I just got discouraged. Like, imagine talking for like basically 45 minutes 2 times and it's like not wanting either one. So I'm just not gonna have any standards. I don't care. Not that I really had standards to begin with, but anyways. Um so yeah. Okay. I feel like I made this video already, so I don't know what I've talked about. But uh I was prompted to redo my stat weights after some people chat, or at least in my YouTube section, saying they're having a lot of success with Spirit. And I looked into it, and Spirit definitely weighs really high when you have a bunch of enemies, right? Intellect came down quite a bit after I did some more math, but it's still the king, you know. It's just not as high as I had it. Um, so other than that, everything's basically the same. MP5 was quite higher than I think I had it before, just because of how long the fights are. I mean, I'm basically doing my math now based off like longer fights. I guess if I was a complete spurg, I could theory craft for like a 2 minute fight or like a 1.5 or 1 minute fight, and then theory craft for like the 4 minute, 6 minute fights, right? Um, but yeah, that's like one issue right now I'm having, right? Is like there's like I'm like the yin and the yang, right? Part of me wants the evil in me wants to like number everything out like a robot, theory craft it down to the fucking decimal, and the other part of me is just having so much fun playing this game as kind of more in a casual way, which I don't play WoW casually ever. And so I've just been enjoying it. Yeah, I've even been doing some PvP. It was a blast. Pun intended. I've got zero PvP skill, but you don't really need much in TVC, man. Let me tell you. I just post up on a bridge or something, or like it's somewhere off to the side while everybody else is fighting. Like we did some fives, and man, it's 2 to 3 blasts per target. Like that's what kills everybody. It's so insane. I pop my cooldowns, and it's just like arcane blast, arcane blast, arcane blast. Okay, next target, arcane blast, arcane. I don't even try to target their healers or the range. I will target the melee because they're usually the closest to me, and then that's pretty much it. Like, or if they're all clumped as a 5-man, after they've kind of blown some damage, I'll just sort of go in, pop my cooldowns, and like 5 arcane explosions will do like 40,000 damage. I don't understand. It's so insane. Like, I look at the recount and it's like, oh, I was just hitting their whole team for like 10,000 damage every second and a half, right? 5 people for 2,000 arcane explosions, right? Like, I don't know, it's been a blast. But anyways, back to the long fight and sort of what I've discovered. So I have changed my idea on some trinkets here. It kind of comes down to trinkets in my opinion, right? Because that's like the only moving part. Short of like the only thing you can really customize, in my opinion, with the mage, like the things that are really flexible and change drastically, are the trinkets and balancing the hit, right? Um, and so that's kind of an interesting issue. But in my opinion, I think most of the leverage of like whether or not you use hit should be switched on this enchant. I think that's a good trigger, right, for like whether or not you run the hit. Because 15 spell hit is basically equivalent to 20 spell damage in my book. More or less, right? If you're down hit, then the hit is obviously really good, but the second you get over hit, it just becomes useless. So this is like a really good light switch to flick on or flick off for the hit, right? Okay, so number 1 trinket for long fights is actually Alchemist Stone. It blows everything out of the water. And it's really awkward because I should have crafted it beforehand before I went these professions. And I remember thinking about that, and I was thinking like, nah, that's so sweaty, right? And, you know, I had an opportunity to like buy a bunch of gold, you know, and do it. And I was like, I don't know, you know, I'm not going to do that. So that was a thing. Also, randomly, the healer ring is like as good, if not actually slightly better than the Archmage for long fights. So if you're a real Spurg, you could switch out the ring every week and enchant it, and then use it for like Gruul and Magtheridon, right? Because it's better. Like Spirit is pretty good. Like you want like 400 Spirit raid buffs, right? Maybe like 500. Because improved DS is like so insane. And the way Spirit interacts with Mage Armor, Meditation, and all of your intellect, because you gotta remember base mana regeneration is based off int, and then Spirit affects that by a percentage. So these continually impact each other more and more intensely as each one gets built up. So I love the relationship between intellect and Spirit so much. They nailed it this expansion so much. I love it. I can't stop praising it enough. So yeah. You guys can't hear my music, but Sexy and I know it just came on randomly. Just throwing the whole vibe off. Yeah, I don't know. There's like so many YouTube analysts now in my comments and stuff about like TBC, and I just don't care that much. Also, one of the issues. Okay, let's rant. Okay, let's rant about Arcane Mage. Okay, because there's gonna be some insane locks, and so there's just a whole like crazy amount of like variation, right? First of all, there's like the worst case scenario where the group's damage is awful. The mage is not getting a shaman, is not in the group with the shaman, is not in the group with the boomkin, is not in a group with the shadow priest, and received no innervates. So that mage has to gear completely different than a mage who receives even just those 3 class buffs, or even just one of them. Or a mage that is in a group that does good DPS, right? Or a mage that's in a group with a bloodlust. Like, it actually changes the formula so much in so many different ways. It's so crazy. And so I feel like everybody has to kind of theorycraft for their group. And my group is a group that kills things a little bit on the slow side. And I usually receive a shaman buff at the minimum. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I get a a really badly timed bloodlust always. They never want a bloodlust like during the right time. It really pisses me off. But hey, what can you do? You know? I mean, I'm pretty sure if we bloodlusted when I wanted to, I would rip through it. Just because of the sheer DPS I'm doing, and our tanks are mitigation focused. You know, it's just a whole different vibe with some of these other groups, right? They're just going so much faster. Their tanks are squishier, but they have so much more damage, so they can hold threat. It's like the whole game is different for some of these really good groups, right? And it's a snowball effect, right? Faster the fight is, the more healing power your healers can bring. The more healing power your healers bring, the more threat your tanks can bring, right? As long as they get snap healed instantly. Right, the more threat your tanks do, the more damage your DPS can do. The more damage your DPS do, the more damage your DPS do, because a lot of them are resource based. So it's this weird snowball effect, right? Like, I watched a like 40-second maiden kill where the mage didn't bring like hardly any intellect. He was all spell damage and like haste stuff, right? He mind quickening gemmed, got bloodlusted, had a boomkin, a shadow priest, and a shaman in his group. And then a hunter or something, obviously for the percent increased damage, and then they proceeded to there was also another mage in his group, I think, or somewhere. Anyways, they proceeded to do like 3,000 DPS because they're trolls, and they also did the berserking thing, right? And he was casting like 0.8 second, 0.7 second, 0.6 second, God knows, arcane blast, and I watched his mana just go down. Of course, he got an innervate. And it was just like, you couldn't like make a more dream situation. And it's like, you just know someone's going to be like, well, you know, so-and-so is doing like 3,000 DPS. So, you know, there's just no way you know what you're talking about. Right? I'm like, okay, well, they had a 35-second, 30-second maiden kill, you know. And the thing is, his playstyle is totally set up for that. Right? Their whole group is. But I wonder, like, what does it look like when they're on Prince or something that maybe has more life or lives longer. But then again, maybe their group does so much DPS that it actually just doesn't matter. I don't know. It's a weird conundrum, but like essentially, I think the best thing to do to teach people is to teach people how to theorycraft, and they can do it themselves, right? So yeah, I can kind of go over a little bit about like what I do for my character, math-wise. You know, just like taking the things I've learned from retail theorycrafting and trying to apply them over here. But essentially, you know, I found out what I do all my math based off the number 10, right? So 10 stat weights, right? So what's 10 agi, what's 10 intellect mean for my character, what's 10 spell power, you know, 10 MP5, 10 critical rating, right? All that shit. And then I assign it a value. So for example, like I have intellect now at like 0.91. That means 10 int equals almost a % increased DPS, right? It used to be at 1.5 when I was lower int, but I've since lowered it significantly. But it's still my best stat. You know, I've got spell power at like actually I could just open up my pawn, huh? Just show you guys. I'm not actually a big fan of pawn. I preferred stat weight score, but that stat weight score lost support like a long time ago. But because you know what's funny, guys? Pawn had a bunch of mistakes, and me and my friend personally messaged the guy who runs it, and he fixed it because we messaged him. But it was like the guy who was running Pawn for TBC is just so checked out, it's like unreal. Like they didn't have like gems working properly. Like I can only imagine how many people are actually using Pawn or something, like, right? I don't know. I don't really know how else to run besides Pawn. Anyways, are these up to date? Yeah, these are kind of up to date right now. So this is the highest spell hit will ever be for me. It could, yeah, because I'm arcane. It could in theory be a little bit higher until I get the right amount of hit. But I pretty much have the right amount of hit. You only really need 2%, so there, that's that. I mean, I guess you could build more for when you run out of mana in your filler, but I feel like theorycrafting for your filler just, ugh, you know, yucky. I don't want to do that. I want to be a big arcane mage. Eventually, my guild will do more damage, and I can just be an arcane mage only, right? Oh, dude, I did a Karazhan, by the way, guys, and like every one of the kills, besides like the super long fights, was like over 1.3k DPS, 1.4. It was so awesome. And that's with my guild's kill times. They're very slow. So I'm definitely theorycraft. All my theorycrafting is done for 4-minute fights. So it's not like I designed a mage to just pump over 1-minute, 2-minute fights. If I was really sweaty, I could change my gear around. So, but anyways, back to the theorycrafting. So once you figure out like what the stats mean for you, or sorry, what the stats are, then you can figure out what they mean for you. AKA, you essentially, this is what I did. I know it's a lot of work, and I doubt any of you guys will do this, but just gives you kind of an idea. I added up the total mana I get in a 4-minute fight. So that was stuff like Evocate, Mana Regen, Judgment of Wisdom, you know, Mana Pots, all that stuff. Everything, plus my initial mana pool, right? Base Mana Regen, and just everything. And I found out that in a 4-minute fight, I'd be getting back 59.966k, essentially. Basically 60,000 mana. And then I leverage the new intellect that I would receive after all the bonuses, you know, including kings and everything, how much mana that would actually give me against this mana, right? Against this mana, right? You know, if 10 int is actually something like 13, I think it's like 13.2% after all the buffs from, you know, and then 13.2 int after the buffs, and then that becomes something like 200 mana, I believe. Is that proper? Wait, actually. Yeah, actually, can I make sure I do this math? Yeah, it's 200. It's 200. I've done this before. Anyways, so then 200 mana, you compare that to like there's more that goes into it, right? So not only is it just 200 mana instantly at the start of the fight, it's also going to be a little bit of extra mana regen. it's going to be the evocate. So you have to figure out what 60% of 200 is. That's easy, 120. So now you're up to 320 mana. You got to add an MP5, and after you calculate it, turns out that 10 int becomes something like 1.8 mana per 5. After you factor in, a 60% from 30 from your talent, 30 from mage armor, obviously this number would go up if you have more spirit, Then you gotta factor in, well, intellect gives me spell damage, right? So then you gotta figure out what your average arcane blast hits for, and then how much that spell damage would increase that arcane blast by. Everything gets a value, everything gets added, and then I also factor in the increased spell damage I'd be getting from spell fire. So okay, here's the problem, right? A lot of you guys are just going to like copy whatever I say, and the problem about that is I made a stat weight and a sim essentially for my character for my guild with our kill times. And a lot of you guys are going to be like, well, hey, I'm doing more than you, or hey, did what you said and it's not working. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no one size fits all, right? Like, I guess I could, in theory, write out these equations and then you guys like plug in your shit, but that just sounds like I'm gonna be honest, I might not be smart enough for that. I know that that's what people make some Google Docs for, and they code it to where like it pre-does the equations for you and shit like that. But I feel like at some point we've got to take a step back and realize that we're playing the Burning Crusade Classic, and that you might just have to Philly craft it. I'm gonna be honest. I'm playing TBC exclusively right now, so I can get away from all the craziness that I was doing for retail. Retail was the game where I was doing 20 hours of math per class, right? And I had a lot of success for it. And I will always have success because no one's willing to do that because it's just so cancer. But this is the game I play for fun, so yeah. I said as I did all the math basically for myself, but I just wanted to do like a reevaluation. So that's what I'm gonna do every time I jump. I'd say maybe like every half tier, I'm gonna reevaluate my character's like gear, and essentially do all this math again for fun, because I find it interesting. And I'm just gonna do like a checkup, like a doctor visit on my character, so to speak, just math-wise. Just like, okay, where are we at now? Can we last a 4-minute fight? No, yes. If we can, then obviously the value of int and spirit go drastically down. If we can't, then it goes way up. It's just basically that's it, right? So, I don't know what to tell you guys. I guess we could talk about a little bit about the builds. Anyways, I do think like. So for me and my math and my character, ALCH Stone is like an 8% altogether DPS increase. And to put that in perspective, I personally believe that the pendant of Violet Eye is like 5%, 5.5, maybe 6%. And the lightning capacitor usually does anywhere from 3.5 to like 4.5% of my damage. Now obviously this scales better with crit, right? This is better when you use it with like Icy Veins and, Bloodlust and shit. And the intellect portion is obviously weighs harder if you have Spellfire, and it weighs harder if you just need the mana in the first place, right? Because this trinket is just mana basically, and a little bit of spell damage from the intellect. I mean, it's a fair amount, like 12 maybe. I don't know, math's hard. It's like 15 because So anyways, I think the Alchemist Stone trinket is nuts. Because it's a flat amount that's not arguably changed too much by your other stats, and it still gives base stats, you can kind of drop some other stats if you're able to last the whole fight. It truly is that impactful. The reason why Alchemist Stone is so insane for Arcane is, one, Arcane wants the mana, and two, it works on Mana Gem because Mana Gem is considered a mana pot for some reason, even though they don't share a cooldown. So both your mana pot and your mana gem will get increased by 40%, and that number is so high that it comes out to something insane, like 80 mana per 5 or something. I don't know what the number was, but it was really, really, really fucking high. So my thinking is that when I can, I want to replace, or at least collect the gear and try out replacing Spellfire when I have the best in slot pieces for these three. I think that's going to be the play, and that's 100% going to be the play for Phase 2, because I don't think we want to be wearing Spellfire because we want the Tier 2. And so yeah, sadly, I'm probably going to drop Tailoring and go Alchemy and make the Stone for Phase 2. And I'll be rocking that, and probably the Lightning Capacitor over Pennant. Maybe. I don't know. Like, Pennant for longer fights, probably. I don't know. We'll have to see, you know? Maybe with the Tier 2, I'll be going again because the increased mana. But then again, I'll have better gear, so maybe it'll, like, balance out. Also, maybe my guild will finally get enough gear and, like, you know, our kill times will be shorter. I don't know. Our kill times haven't really drastically gone down too much, and it's kind of annoying. Also, I've been getting put, because we are so limited on mages, I've been getting put in like Group B, Group C for a lot of things, you know? It's kind of slightly annoying. I'm definitely not part of like the main crew, and I might have to start asking them like, what's up, you know? If I like want to actually like parse and shit, you know? But again, I'm just not in that pocket, that mindset right now. Like, I'm just enjoying the game. Like, I know it's so casual and it's so weird for me to not be completely obsessed with numbers all the time. And I bet people probably think I am just obsessed, but you have no clue what I normally am. Like, you know? Like, this is so chill. Like, I'm so chill this expansion. It's nuts. I'll do like heroics that I don't need for fun, just for fun. Like, it's so crazy. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, look at this. I don't have any items I need out of the heroics, and what am I sitting on? 72 badges of justice. Could pimp out a whole character practically. Like, it's so insane. Oh yeah, I gotta go sell this shit. Yeah, that's another thing I'm gonna miss, is having the money from tailoring. But I will I'm gonna pile up money. Save for the switch before, switch either when I get all of the gear to replace the Spellfire for Phase 1, and if it's good, I will definitely switch on the spot. But yeah, so here's one of the issues, right? Is Spellfire is all damage. It's a lot of spell damage, and the bonus is a lot of spell damage. So taking off 3 pieces of Spellfire is something akin to like, I don't know, it's 100, 172, it's like minus 300 spell damage. And so the pieces that I put on are probably not going to be that much spell damage back, right? And that means that I probably would have to change my other gear to reflect that, especially if I'm running a Alchemist Stone, which is even more mana, right? So I might have to just like reevaluate the whole character if I get the 3 Abyss pieces, and I might just have to start equipping different things all around that are less like intellect and those kind of stats and a lot more spell damage. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, mathematically wise, the pieces are better than these. It's all in like caster stats rather than like, you know, just raw damage. Which is good, which will push my DPS up for like the 4 or 6 minute fights, but it'll mean that all of my damage normally that's in shorter fights of like 2 minutes and down will be less. So there's actually just so much random shit with TBC, and I just love how all the stats mesh together so much, and how much there is to think about this, and how much it kind of actually is just a feely craft, you know? Yeah, I mean, there's just actually not that much feely craft in retail. It just can be all mathed out hardcore in most situations. And the stats don't really affect each other too drastically like they do in this version. And you normally aren't like concerned about going And what it is it's another exponential like plane that you have to deal with math-wise when you can actually affect your mana pool, and 2, your mana regen. So that's 2 layers, that adds 2 to the exponent of complications of different equations that have to be done. Like, I can't quite explain it. It's so insane. And then also fight times changing so drastically. And and just the ability to actually go from like getting bloodlusted and icy veins and fucking arcane power and all this shit. It's just actually so many things that you get calculated. That at the end of the day, it's kind of just like a vibe. Like you kind of just have a bunch of different gear, understand the strengths of the gear, understand like, okay, this is a long fight piece. Like I might have to download an add-on to where I can change gear, and I'm probably gonna create a list that says short fight, long fight, and just switch, you know. And I've been manually kind of doing that a little bit with just swapping an icon for Pennant and for, you know, single target short fights, and then for AoE I swap in Wrath of Cenarius Ring for band. Yeah, and I'll swap Incanters in for this piece when it's a short fight, because it, you know, it's more damage technically. This is mana regen. So I've started to kind of do it already. But not enough, not enough. Oh, you know, there's some things I want to talk about. What's this notification? I'm scared. 25% over 2 minutes. That's not good. Are we still lagging? Well, I hope we're not lagging. Anyways, something else I want to talk about. I have officially switched from the 65 intellect flask over to the guardian elixir and the battle elixir. It was a close one, but now that I've reached such a high amount of intellect, the damage is more worth it, right? Also, you know what actually tipped it, guys, is the spirit. The spirit made it worth it. So the spirit functions as almost equivalent to intellect. Almost. Like, it's actually scarily close, you know? As you saw in the pawn. So that's what did it. So yeah, these are going to be my new combo. Also, I don't know if, since the videos, you know, the last video I said I think I was all over the mana gem. Same similar thing, except I had done the math for the Chaotic Skyfire Diamond different. I had assumed that this functioned like all other things I'd seen with crit damage, and I thought it was a flat amount added to the already pre-existing. Sorry. So what I thought was, this would make your crits go from 175% to 178%. That's not the case. It's actually like you take 175 and you increase that number by 3%. So it ends up being significantly better. Also, the math is a little bit different too, because you have to times it by that again. Because whenever you get increased damage on already increased damage, it has a disproportionate amount of impact. Let me explain. So here's your, say you hit normally for 100, and let's say you hit 10 times and one time it was a crit. Just for simplicity, we're gonna say 200. Okay, so you did 900 plus there was 200. Okay, can I type hello plus 200 for 1100? Okay. Now if I was to give you 3% increased damage, right? It would be like this, plus 3%, boom. Okay. And there you go. So you've gained 33. So what I thought is, I thought this gem, since I had like at the time I was doing the math for it, I had like a third chance to crit. So I just thought it was gonna be like 1% average. So I thought it was like gonna be 1100 plus 1%, and I was like, it only gives like 11, you know, that's not that good. That's only 1% damage increase, right? But what actually happens is it's 3% to that number, right? So let's pull that up. So it's actually 3% of 200. I feel like I'm making a bad case here. I did something wrong. Yeah, what did I do wrong? Anyways, I'm doing it completely wrong. I'm demonstrating it completely wrong. I forgot what I did. Oh, because the crit chance on this is so low, that's why. So yeah, with it, when you reach a certain amount of crit, right? Like for me, I'm at like 40% critical strike chance, right? So 40% of the time, I'm getting 200. So let's in our little theory here, 4 times 200 is 800. The other 6 times is just the normal 100, right? So 800 plus 600. There's my normal damage over 10 seconds, right? So I thought previously it was going to be something like, you know, plus 1 point, like 4%, right? Because I'm critting 40% of the time. Bing, bang, bong. I thought it was going to be like a 19 increase. But what actually happens is you take that 800 plus 3%, and here we go. It's a 24 increase, right? So it's not 19, it's 24. And the reason being is you're affecting an already increased percentage of damage, right? So you kind of actually have to increase this number. It's some weird math. So what happens is, so in our case, because it's arcane, you take 3%, you times it by the modifier, right? So 1.75, and then you divide it by, or you times it again by the critical strike chance. So in my case, it's 0.44. I crit 44% of the time. And then this is the actual DPS increase you can expect, 2.3%. It doesn't seem like that because it says 3% increased critical strike damage. You would never expect to get 2.3% increased damage. But it's because it's picking back off something that's already been increased by 75%, right? So it gets increased by 75%, then it gets times against your chance to get crit, then it comes out. It was one of the most like head slap moments of my theory crafting career, shall we call it. I hate when stuff like this happens because I just feel so stupid. But yeah, I was wondering why everybody swears up and down this is so good. Normally I don't trust people. I finally looked into it really, really hard, and I found it, to my surprise, I saw how it actually worked. Like, I looked it up, and I was like, oh, holy shit, yeah, that's way different than what I thought, right? So, and of course, this naturally pushes up the value of critical strike, which then reinforces the value of this gym, and in a never-ending cycle, right? So, this gym has a massive value when I have so much crit. And for those of you guys that are lasting the fights, there's a really high chance that this gym is better. Also, it has a lower requirement, only requires 2 blues, which is pretty easy to get, which means you can run 2 more yellows. And that gets factored in as well. So because the other one has such harsh gem requirements, and this one is such good, and because intellect got decreased because I have so much of it, that the mana return back isn't as important to last the duration. It's a perfect storm in which my meta gems got switched, essentially, right? So there you go on that one. So I'll be using this meta gem probably forever because I don't see the mana scaling harder at all, whereas this one will scale harder because, as I get more and more crit. So anything else I have forgotten to talk about? I probably should be using the reduced threat. But I don't know. I have like this is like a feely thing. I feel like bosses have like arcane resistance sometimes, and I don't know if it's because of like a hit thing or whatever, but I don't know. I just feel like I'd rather have the penetration, but maybe the reduced threat is something like this too, right? Where it's actually more than 2% because of some bullshit thing, Like I could see a world where it reduces the remaining threat you make by a flat number. AKA, currently, I make, with this and salve, what is salve, 30%? I make only 30% of my normal threat if the reduced threats are additive, right? And so in this world, 2% more would push my threat reduction from 70% to 72%. So 2 is a vastly larger percentage of the remaining 30 left, right? 2 of the remaining 30... math is hard, would be like 6%. So it might be, and this is just theorizing, it might be the case that back enchant might be 6% reduced threat, in which case it's probably better. But I'm not reaching threat issues right now, so fuck them. You know, that's what I say. Oh yeah, I need to get the I do generally think that Marshals is better for short fights, and that the risk from heroic shattered halls is better for long fights because it has spirit on it. So I need to collect that, and I'm gonna start forming a short fight, long fight gear set here, and probably maybe even a variation of hit gear of some sort, so I can deal with the fact when I don't have a shaman in my group, because that has definitely been rather debilitating, and it's kind of annoying. So I also deleted. So I am unable to item restore my my blue mage wand that I got from Karazhan. It's just gone. It's gone. It doesn't exist. So that's annoying because that wand is technically, I know it's a healer wand, that wand is technically our best for long fights. Because that's spirit, I believe. So that's annoying. So yeah, I definitely need a ring upgrade. I would say right now I'm looking at cloak and ring for my next upgrades. It's kind of all I really need. I still need to collect the bis for these pieces technically, but I'm not like super crazy about it. A lot of these come from Mag and Gruul, and you know, Mag and Gruul just doesn't drop that much loot, right? So it'll happen slowly. I'm actually in no rush for phase 2 to come out. I don't even have replacement gear for Spellfire yet. So I'm chilling. Ready to do some alt stuff, butt stuff, you know? We're chilling. Is there anything else I need to talk about? Definitely Spirit on your boots as an enchant. Definitely worth. Spirit was super underrated. I've bumped it up quite a bit now. Oh, you know what? You know what's starting to show up good, guys? Believe it or not, the Bangle of Endless Blessing. Deadass, if you have the kind of gear I have and your groups are going kind of slow, Bangle isn't a bad trinket, I swear. It's crazy. Bangle of Endless Blessing, look it up. It's nuts, man. But yeah. I'm hesitant to take anything that ties damage trinkets. Like so if there's like a mana choice and it ties, like as far as the DPS increase, the DPS stuff, always with the DPS stuff, because I want to be more effective in short fights rather than just effective in long fights. One thing I didn't properly theorycraft, and I tried to, but I just gave up because I knew how to do it, I just didn't want to do all the math for it, is what exactly my filler's DPS is, and then come up with a way of determining what, like to factor that into a discussion of like how much DPS affects that versus like how much spell damage would affect that versus my arcane blast spamming, and then weigh that against they're talking shit. And then weigh that against how much, like the mana, and I don't, it's just endless stuff to theorycraft. It's kind of nuts. I didn't even talk about all the different kind of fillers you could do. I actually still think Arcane Missiles as a filler isn't bad. The main issue is you just lose purchase to burst DPS for the really short fights, right? And the problem is, I think this is the all-around build. I really do. There was one person on my YouTube who was talking about having to be on Scorch duty, and so I kind of wanted to explain that a little bit. If you have to be the mage that applies improved Scorch for your group, and they'll still let you play Arcane, okay, then this is what I would do. I'd probably go 5, probably 2, because you're gonna be using this as a filler. You could probably go 2, 1. But you could also just go 3 and say fuck it to having pyro, and fuck it to reduced threat and reduced cast time, knockbacks and shit, and get massive AoE damage for 5-mans. Or whatever, because this will make your Flame Strike do so much more damage, because you gotta think about it, right? You'll have Spell Power, Ignite, which piggybacks off the Spell Power, and then increase critical strike chance in your Flame Strike. Like this is practically, each one of these is like 10% more damage on your Flame Strike. I'll be honest, like it's so insane. So you could get like 30% increased flame strike damage basically. More like 20 to 25%, but you get the point. Or you could just get more single target bullshit that helps you out, right? You could get a fat opener with reduction, but I don't really know what fights do ticky damage on you. Sorry. Do you even need Burning Soul? So, but you might just need a threat reduction, to be completely honest. Like, this will help you with flame striking too, so who knows. Anyways, then you could pick up your 3 points. You could even probably get away doing 2, you know, but I'd probably just do 3 to be safe. Improve Scorch. So that would be an 18-point dip, right? So then the 3 points left over, you could do Elemental Precision, right? And there you go. That's one build. You could also say fuck it to Elemental Precision and go 3 points in improved empowered arcane missiles, and then you do a weird funky build where you're Scorch spamming to help the group. Well, you're Scorching every once in a while to put up a buff, and then when you get low on mana, you're Scorch spamming to fish for Clear Cast, which you use on empowered missiles because missiles cost a lot, and missiles has a higher than average chance to re-proc Clear Casting, which is really cool. So that's a play. One thing I noticed is I tried this out. I wasn't even responsible for doing improved Scorch, but they did like me when I had it. Is that because you're running literally no hit, and I was also in a group with no shaman, it was bad. It was really bad. Like, I run 2% hit. That's it. And because Scorch isn't an arcane spell, it was a nightmare just seeing resist. It was very demoralizing. So, you know, and it seemed like my chance to get a clear cast was significantly lower for Scorch spamming. I don't know if the hit played a role in that. So I don't think I would recommend that personally. I think I would just go 3 points Elemental Precision and just Fireball spam and or Scorch spam and then clear cast Fireball, right? Also, obviously you're arcane, so you're still going to be casting your 1 arcane blast every 8 seconds, right? This is all about the filler, by the way. This is like when you're on 1,000 mana or 2,000 mana, you've got nothing else, and nothing else is coming up soon. It's a super long fight. It's Gruul or Mag or whatever Prince. This is your filler instead of Frost stuff. There's also a variation where you could go 11 Frost just for Icy Veins, and then you could go 10 points Fire just for the Ignite, and your filler's Fireball. Right? This is, again, for gamers, you know? That's kind of a cool combo, in my opinion, you know? And here's the thing, actually. One thing people don't think about is this doesn't actually improve your efficiency. This just makes you cast faster. So actually, if you know you're going to go in a fight, Icy Veins and Arcane Power, assuming you don't have on-use trinkets, is best used for Fireball spamming. But you'll probably rip Threat. You know, so you might have to use... So maybe on your second use, you'd have to do that. Yeah. I could talk for days, man. There's actually just so much, and I'm afraid my computer's going to get full on memory again. And it, you know what's insane is I do the math for these things, and they come out really close. Like, technically, Frost is a terrible filler, right? Especially because even with Elemental Precision, I'm still missing like 7% hit or 8% hit or something, right? Wait, I guess it's actually just 10% because no, 7 because 10 minus 3. Math's hard. You know, so Frost Bolts are missing. Also, Frost Bolts are kind of like not actually like they are efficient, but they're not like super high DPS. You know, so one thing you could do. Again, this is part of the fire thing, is that the fire filler does like twice, like probably 50% more DPS, maybe even higher, dare I say. There's a world where you pack more hit, and you spend a lot more time doing fire stuff. And you use like the clear cast on fireballs or something, right? And so, you know, there's that world. I don't know. I just think there's so much flexibility when you have points in Arcane and you have Spell Power and Ignite with fire stuff. The synergy is so insane. And I even theory crafted a build the other day that was Arc Frost. and you go down to spell power. You do the same amount of points in arcane that you would do in arc fire, and it was something like an even split between arcane and frost, and you could get pretty far down into frost. Let's see, with fire you could, with the arc fire, 10, 20, 25. You're 28 points fire, I believe, with the arc fire. So 28 points, 10, 20, 25. You're able to get I think 2 or 3 points of Winter's Chill, which is all you really need, because you don't actually need all 5 points in Winter's Chill. So there's actually this pretty cool build, and I mapped it out, guys. I actually think, and I looked at a lot of logs to see the percent damage that that Mr. Water Ellie here does. I factored in this, I factored in a lot of things, and I actually think with a high amount of crit, it comes out ahead of just all frost. If for whatever reason you're out there and you're a frost mage, a deep frost mage, you can actually play arc frost, and because the way spell power, the meta gem, and ice shards all synergize together, you get some very fat crits on those frost bolts. And it's all very efficient, which means you get to run a fuck ton of spell damage, like a lot of spell damage. And you still get Icy Veins and Arcane Power as an opener, right? Which means fat fucking, burst. You give up Mr. Water Ellie, boohoo, right? He's okay. But yeah, once you get your Winter's Chill, you go ham, you push all your cooldowns, and the cool part about the Arc Frost is you can get like improved Cone of Cold. You can make Cone of Cold. There's even ways if you want to take a slight hit to like some of your other stuff. You can get what was it? It was a 7. Yeah, it was a 10-point dip, so it's rather extreme. And this would be only for 5-mans. But you could go a Shatter build, right? Because you've got the increased crit from Arcane. You've got Arcane Power. So what you could do is you could essentially Frost Nova into a Flame Strike Cone of Cold. And the Cone of Cold Flame Strike would hit so fucking hard, especially the Cone of Cold, right? You could get 45% increased damage on a Cone of Cold. You could make it to where it's got 50% increased chance against frozen targets, 100% crit damage, 50% crit damage, 30% more damage there, right? You could, if it's clear casted, it's gonna be 20% higher because you only get 2 in here, 20% higher crit chance. So you've got a 70% just from talents alone chance to crit on a frozen target. I'm sure you pick up 30% just naturally from bullshit, right? So yeah, like 100% chance of a Cone of Cold that's gonna hit for like 3x damage. It would slap. It would absolutely slap for just doing DPS. Yeah. So Arc Frost, I feel like could be really real, and I've seen some logs where some Frost mages pumped. So I think it's wholly possible. Just the amount of builds and things that are completely viable for mage to actually pump is insane. But in my opinion, the only thing that sort of transcends, and this is the fights are short, is Arcane, just because of what Arcane Blast does. It takes a spell that has a 2.5 second coefficient and squeezes it down to a 1.5 second cast. Just simply put. And then it can slap Icy Veins and Arc Power onto that, and yeah, right. Short fights, it's just gonna go bananas. You could even combine that with the Troll Button, Bloodlust, a non-use Trinket. Hell, I've even started collecting some Destruction Potions, combining it with those 2 cooldowns and Lust, just for some, fun. If you use Destruction, oh yeah, I guess I could talk about that. If you use a Destruction Pot when you're Lusted, and an unused Trinket, and Arc Power and Icy Veins, it is equivalent in a long fight of DPS worth to a Super Mana Pot. Now, obviously, if the fight is really short, you just do this anyways, right? But yeah, these cost quite a bit of money. They're like 6 gold each. So if you're like a millionaire, go for it. That's kind of a fun way to increase your DPS. One thing that I noticed, even for short fights, it's not really worth to switch mage armor to a molten armor unless the fights are unless you guys are really cranking. The loss or the gain in DPS is like not that high, because again your crit modifier is not that high, and the loss in mana, even just in a short fight, could mean so much. Like 30% mana regeneration is so insane. That's like it's like 170 mana per 5 in combat. So even if the fight's like 40 seconds, that's like what, 320, 340 times 6. It's like 2,000 mana, you know. And that might be the difference of whether or not you have to evocate. And if that's the difference of whether or not you have to evocate, there's no fucking world where this is higher DPS. So if in the fight you have to evocate because of molten armor, there's no way it's better. Yeah, so molten armor is only for fights in dungeons, I'd say like heroic dungeons, where you literally killed the boss before an evocate. And that's, you know, it's possible. Ooh, they got this. This is what I was talking about, guys. This is your best in slot wand for long fights. Int, Spirit, 10 spell damage. The Int and Spirit work really well together. It doesn't seem like much, but believe it or not, I believe this is the best wand. And I open a portal to Shat. Of course, mid-video I would get asked for a portal to Shat. Classic mage things. I guess I should end the video here. I don't really know. Oh my god, 10 gold. It's one of the fattest tips I've ever seen. Okay, glad we took it. Hey, mage life, baby. What else can I ramble about? Jesus. Oh yeah, don't cold snap till the end of the fight, till the last charge, right? Because it'll desync your arcane power and your icy veins, and so it's only worth. You only ever want to cold snap the last icy veins you'll ever get before the boss dies. So you kind of gotta figure that out, right? Is this a 1 cooldown fight, or a 2 cooldown fight, or a 3 or a 4 cooldown fight, dare I say, if your guild sucks and you're doing mag, right? You gotta figure that one out. And sometimes you'll fuck it up. But the beauty about even if you fuck it up is you could realize the fight's going much faster, and then just cold snap icy veins, you know, and finish the last 20 seconds strong. So, also, you really want to be icy veining your evocate, in my opinion. And there's 2 reasons because of this. One, again, icy veins is not a efficiency increase in the slightest. So for long fights where you go icy veins is a 0 DPS increase. Same with arcane power, 0% DPS increase. The only way that actually increase your DPS is if they increase your efficiency, and the only way they increase your efficiency is if you have temporary power that is only in a window of that. So, for example, and this is because arcane power increases the cost of your spells proportional to the amount that you do, and frost makes you go faster, right? And that's it. Just makes you go faster. So you're spending more mana to do the same increased cast speed. Like, it's not like neither one of these increase your efficiency, but icy veins can make your evocate go faster. It can actually speed up your evocate so much to where your stacks of arcane blast don't fall off. Now, this is a bad thing for efficiency, but a good thing for DPS, right? So it's a kind of a weird argument, but in a world where if you have to evocate, you want to icy veins it, is essentially what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. And so your second cold snap icy veins, hopefully on that back end of the 40 seconds is when you could get it off, right? After like being in icy veins for 32 seconds, the last 8 is when you'd want to evocate. And then you go right back up to full mana perfectly, and then you didn't drop your arcane blast stacks, and you just shoo back down, right? So yeah. But again, that's probably for a short fight or a mid fight, because you know you gotta think about how the fight goes down. Like, this is, in that case, this is for a fight that's gonna last like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, right? Because what you don't want is after 3 minutes rolls around and your arcane power is up, but your icy veins is on cooldown, right? because now you just missed the chance to use those 2 again, assuming you had the mana for it, right? Everything comes down to your composition, your guild's kill time on the target, and how best to influence your DPS, right? If you can Icy Veins or Evocate, you always want to, is essentially my point. But you don't want to desync these cooldowns till it's the last, you know, yeah, you get what I'm trying to say, I think. Usually I'll Presence of Mind the first Arcane Blast, but one thing you can do with the Presence of Mind, and it's probably better, is palm a Fireball, right? Or if you have Palm Pyro, then Palm Pyro. Because what you want this to be a DPS increase. The only way this is a DPS increase is if it saves you time. It doesn't save you much time on Arcane Blast, because it turns a 2.5 into 1.5, assuming it's your first cast, which is nice. Can I buy a mage table? Got there. Okay, guess I have to make waters. Classic mage life, boys. Anything else I can tell you guys, man? Some fights allow you to, I don't know if they fixed it, because I haven't really been able to pull it off lately, but some fights you can invis and then drink. But I don't know if this is actually worth it. Also, if you have a really high wand DPS, there's decent math to support the fact, oh, there you got, I got innervated. Decent math to support the fact that just wanting and rule of 5ing, even though you're already getting 60% normally, is actually not too bad either, right? And certainly is definitely the play if you're, if like you're in a fight, you're and you need the mana for a certain phase, or there's a % damage increase coming up or something, right? So for example, let's just use it as an example, though it would never be the case. But, well, it might be. Like in Mag, okay? When the people are channeling the beams into the boss, you always want to have 3 charges of Arcane Blast up, and for the duration of the increased damage, Arcane Blast the boss. And then it would be worth your time to, the second that's over, stop and want. And so you want to ensure that you can always pump the boss with like 5 Arcane Blasts when he's, you know, taking increased damage. And then go back to wanding. And these here's the main thing about the wand procs. The wand hits proc Judgment of Wisdom, right? And so it's a free way for you to A, increase your mana regeneration, and B, proc Judgment of Wisdom. So that's 100% of play, rather than just getting resisted all day on your frostbolts, potentially, right? I would say if you don't have a shaman, then actually wanting the boss is probably better. If you do have a shaman, then you can definitely do this if you want, right? Or if the boss has some kind of mechanic where there's times where it takes increased damage, you know, like Ilhoof or something like that, or you've got cooldowns coming up like your Trinket, and you normally pair that with Arcane Power Icy Veins, maybe you just wait like the 10 seconds, farm up some mana with auto attacks, pop your cooldowns, you know, Presence of Mind to get the stacks up real quick, whatever, and go ham. You know, it'll be more efficient in the long run. I think. Or I don't know, maybe not, who knows. It's an interesting puzzle of just choices that you kind of have to make, and I don't actually think there's probably a right answer. Mathematically there's a right answer, but just based off like math at the top of my dome and what I know, it all kind of comes out to be kind of close, you know? The only thing that seemed higher was generally deep arcane with a little bit of fire for the filler. But when I tested it, I just got resisted so much that it didn't work out. I got disproportionately resisted. Like I looked at the logs and my fire spells got resisted 30% of the time. Which should be impossible, but yet it happened, you know? And I mean, I guess that's what I get for having literally no hit. But according to the math, I'm supposed to get resisted only 17% of the time or 18% of the time, right? If I have 0 hit. But yet I got resisted 30%. And I casted so many scorches that really there should have been a balanced amount of misses, and yet it was way higher. And that makes me think that maybe, just maybe, and I know that that was only one sample size, but I actually think spell hit, we've got the wrong equation. My guess is spell hit is an exponential / diminishing return. This is some speculation here, right? This is conspiracy shit. I don't know if they changed it or if I'm just, I just had a bad luck, right? Just bad luck. But I think that the first percentage of spell hit you get pushes you from a different bracket into a new bracket. So like when you have absolutely no spell hit, it's like disproportionate. Like you randomly just get even more chance to miss, right? Versus getting even just a little bit of spell hit maybe has a greater than percentage, Like the first 2% of spell hit you get might actually mean that you hit like, I don't know, 5 or 10% more often. But I do know one thing, running 0% spell hit, and I casted like, I don't know, it was like 70 scorches or something, maybe like 80 scorches, and I saw 5% of them, 30% of them miss. I don't know. It's on a log. It was a terrible log. Also, I only got like 2 or 3 clear casting procs from like 70 scorches, which I thought was really interesting. It seemed as if the reduction in spell hit was simultaneously preventing me from getting clear casting procs, right? Because even though I casted 70 and I still hit like 50, I should have seen like 5 clear casting procs, but I didn't. I just saw like 1 or 2. It was nuts. So yeah, I think if you do deep arcane fire, you actually probably need elemental precision and more hit. Definitely more hit. Yeah. Which might reduce its effectiveness as a filler. But again, this is all if you can't do arcane the whole time. And it's kind of a weird thing to theorycraft for, no offense, but like the shitters. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be thinking like that. You want to just be like, oh, I'm a Chad. I'm going to last the whole fight. Arcane all the way. Easy clap, right? And that's great if your guild kills shit fast. But if it doesn't, then it's like if your guild kills stuff just a little bit slow, you definitely want to be Frost. But if it kills shit really slow, where you're so for so long, deep arcane fire is actually mathematically, even with all the loss and hit, a more efficient way of sustaining DPS. Because Scorch is nuts. With Ignite, spell power, clear casting, the math works, and because you use the clear cast on arcane missiles, the math just like tilts way the fuck up, But you probably need a little bit of hit for that. So I know I didn't really give anybody definitive information, like do this, do XYZ, but I think there's just a little bit too much going on with this game to where I can just confidently say anything. Also, if you want to be a greedy piece of shit, move 2 of these points into magic absorption. You have a lot of mana like me, that can be insane. I personally like being a little bit of a team player, and I'm the improved amp / dampen mage for the guild. We only have a few mages anyways, so I prefer to rock this for like Gruul and stuff like that and be a team player. I'm in a fairly semi-hardcore guild, they're not like, I'm not playing with apes, So anything I can do to help them out, I do. I always tank on Mulgore because I'm the only one who has, 13, 14k health when I tank it. All the other mages just die. So, I've been having fun being a team player, honestly. It's been nice. Like, I still pump all the time, So, alright, well, this video has reached a very long amount of time, and I'm sure I forgot things I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Alright. Thanks for listening.